Investment special meeting for Friday, April 16th. We're here in the John Farrow Council Chambers. We have 4 items today, and colleagues, if nobody has any objection, I would move items 1 and 2 on consent. Are there no questions? We'll go ahead and do that. Let's take up item number 3 then. Good morning.
Good morning, Anime Utam from the CAO. On February 10, a motion was introduced instructing the CAO to report to Council and provide an estimate on the number of jobs that can be retained and created by the City using ARRA funds that have already been awarded. Based on information our office received from the departments, the City is estimated to create or retain 2,822 jobs. This number is much lower than the original estimate of 8,000 jobs due to recent guidelines from OMB, which updated the methodology for counting jobs created and retained for ARRA. In the new guidance, ARRA recipients will only report jobs that are directly funded with ARRA funds. Our report also included a list of pending ARRA applications. At that time, the City had 16 applications that total approximately $109 million, and if approved, would create an additional 463 positions. This list would be updated to reflect new awards and applications and will be provided to the committee as part of the briefing notes if you have any questions.
So the Department of Water and Power report, it's a little more confusing. It's a little vaguer. They commissioned LAEDC, is that correct, to estimate some of the jobs?
Yes, the original estimates for the water and power had 1,763. This is for 3 of their projects. Unfortunately, that 1,763 included indirect jobs as well as induced jobs. So their estimate went down from 1,763 to actually 5.29.
Okay, gotcha. But they also then, did they dispute the methodology? Was there agreement? Are they okay? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The Smart Drinking Water Revolving Fund estimate is about 17, and then the Smart Grid program was anywhere from 48 to 222 positions. Do we have some wiggle room? I'm reading some notes that I think from CRA and my staff that it's not set, the number, right? It's kind of an estimate?
It's an estimate, yes.
Why so wide an estimate from 48 to 222 on the Smart Grid program? Is there any explanation on that?
I would prefer that the department answer that question.
Can we have the department come on forward? And I'll say at the outset, it's not my intention to bite at the beginning for the department. Can't speak for Mr. Parks, but... Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. We'll find out.
Yes, don't worry.
Your question with regard to the first thing on the LAEDC, we actually started working on the ARRA stuff before the ad hoc was actually even created.
Right.
And at that time, we did not have a methodology that was either approved by the federal government nor the city. So we thought that we would hire the LAEDC to help us out. And what they did is a little bit different methodology, obviously, than is required now insofar as it looked at more of a county-wide economic multiplier type of analysis. If you spent $1, here are all the companies throughout the LA County economic structure that would be impacted. You're buying nails from this company, you're buying rebar from that company, and that sort of thing. So that's why the discrepancy in terms of the numbers are so different. But once the CAO came up with a methodology that was approved for the city, we stopped using the LAEDC numbers. And so this set of projects, these water projects, were the 3. I think we had even talked about them previously, that they were kind of an aberration relative to the other projects. With regard to the differential on the smart grid, when we put this package together, the power system was still actually at that time, hadn't even begun negotiations with the DOE yet. Mm-hmm. So we have an estimate, I think it's 48 to about 200 or so jobs. Yeah. And the reason for that was it just depended on how the negotiations went with the DOE.
Are we farther along on those? Do we have a better idea now?
They just concluded, yes, within the last couple of weeks, and it should peak at about 240 jobs, I believe.
Okay.
And it'll ramp up, obviously, so it'll go from 4 or 5 jobs up to about 240. On average, it should be about 170 jobs for smart grid. over the 3-year life of the project. And it'll vary.
Because some come in and some go out, 240
That's correct.
total.
Different people working on the project, different phases. There are 3 universities involved, UCLA, USC, and Caltech, and each of them...
Sounds like a really smart grid.
We're very fortunate to have them as partners, yes, sir.
The public and private divide, do you know the estimate of how many of those are public?
I don't offhand, but I can get that for you,
okay.
sir.
That'd be great.
It's in the package. I did see it. I just haven't gotten a hard copy.
I'll glance and see if I can find the breakdown.
No. I'm sorry. It's the package that they just signed with the DOE.
Oh, they
so
did.
I can get you precise numbers,
okay,
sir.
that'd be great. Mr. Alcon, your motion? Good. Mr. Sparks? All right. We'll go ahead and receive and file the CAO and DWP reports. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Number 4, please.
For item 4, you have the Chief Legislative Analyst reporting in response to motion Alarcon Parks relative to the fund application administration process.
All right.
Good morning. Chris Concepcion with the Office of the Chief Legislative Analyst. The motion Alarcon Parks, dated January 29, 2010, directed our office to report back in 30 days on specific ways that jurisdictions similar to Los Angeles applied for and administered American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds, otherwise known as ARA funds, and also directed our office to elaborate on how the City of Los Angeles can improve its own ARA application and administrative process to create the jobs needed at this time. Contained in the CLA report is a description of 3 particular cities, ARA programs, notations on the differences and similarities of these programs to the City of Los Angeles, a comparative analysis of the jobs numbers reported by each city as compared to Los Angeles, and we also detailed potential actions that the Council may take in order to improve our ARA process to create an increased number of jobs. The cities we have looked at in this report are the City of Chicago, the City of New York, and the City and County of San Francisco. You'll notice that the report before you contains a reported total of jobs from each city, and they differ from, that total actually differs from what we call the comparative jobs total. And through this information we obtain through the staff of each city and our own analysis, the comparative job totals for each city in the report before you are as follows. The City of Chicago has a comparative job total of 2,927. New York City has a comparative job total of 1,376. And San Francisco has a comparative job total of 1,075 as compared to the City of Los Angeles, which was 1,207 at the time of the writing of this report. When examining information on other cities' ARA programs, we took a closer look at the City of Chicago's model as they have the highest comparative job total. The City of Chicago's model is not much different than the City of Los Angeles, except that Chicago has made more concrete relationships with stakeholders and consulting groups. Despite this finding, there is a correlation between the Chicago's comparative jobs total and their legislative priority, as discussed with the Mayor's Office of Chicago. Mayor Daley of Chicago has made job creation the main priority in evaluating projects for ARA funding. Overall, this has driven the evaluation process for projects which are selected by Chicago's working groups for submittal for ARA funding. As you'll recall, during the project assessment phase of our ARA program, the Council instructed each working group to look at 13 guiding principles when recommending projects to Council for ARA funding. While job creation and retention was 1 out of 13 criteria, it has not been made the main priority as opposed to cities such as Chicago. As such, if the Council wishes to set a main priority on maximizing job creation or retention for consideration of upcoming projects for ARA funding and for existing grant awards, our office would give 2 recommendations. The first would be to set aside job creation and retention of the list of guiding principles, which was originally adopted by this Council, to make it the main priority in evaluating potential legislative projects. And 2, we would concur with the proposal of the CAO to create a Tiger team, which would more closely work with departments to ensure the expenditures and proposed projects for ARA funds reflect the priority of job creation, retention, and are executed expeditiously.
Thank you. This report was excellent, and I think it did underscore. Appreciate with Chicago when you made that estimate. You also took out the education and the health and human services elements, and still they came out not quite double, but probably double per capita the number of jobs when you look at our population differences. And we certainly, I think, share, and I'll let Mr. Alarcon speak to this as well, but I think we all share a desire that jobs should be the first priority. We had a number of priorities that we put forward, or guiding principles, but I do think moving forward, I certainly would support that. I'll wait till for Mr. Alarcon if we want to maybe make that as a motion today or something formal, but I think that is critical, and we know that the way out of this has to be with jobs, and that it has to be what we lead forward with, and it shows where we have fallen somewhat short. Compared to the city of New York, we're obviously doing better per capita. Compared to San Francisco, size of the budget, we're doing better, but I think they probably per capita are doing better than us. And I think, creating a Tiger team as well would be helpful for us, because to have that analysis and to have some folks that understand job creation and retention and the multiplier effect of how funds can be used to best utilize that and recommend to this committee would be very helpful to us. So, Mr. Alarcon, did you want to chime in as well?
Just for clarification, the recommendation number 1 in the letter, is that before us, or do I have to move it?
I think let's go ahead and move it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd be happy to move
recommendation
number 1A to set
I think
apart.
we'll approve the. Is that a report? The CAO.
What's before you?
The CLA letter.
This
yes,
is in
the
cover
CLA
letter.
recommendation is before you, which is also the Jobs and Business Development Committee recommendation.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Well, let me just state it for the record then.
Yeah. Move that report.
I move, as recommended by the CAO, to set apart the principles of job creation and job retention with emphasis on city employees as the top priority, separate from all other principles as expressed in Council's action of April 7, 2009, which would be those 13 principles, and further designate job creation and job retention as the top priorities in connection with the evaluation of proposed projects and uses for RF funds.
Great. We'll second that and go ahead and move that if there's no objection. Mr. Parks?
Asked, because you reminded me in reading the report that we put some time into the 14 guiding principles, but they're not readily available each time we're the meeting. I'm going to ask if the CAO can add that to their ongoing package, so we'll always have them available for each meeting, because I think you kind of lose sight of them, even though a great deal of time was put in to develop them.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
For the record, Jobs did hear this matter, and they did make a couple of amendments, one of which Mr. Alarcon already read onto the record. There was a second recommendation and a third recommendation. Do you wish to concur with
Yes.
Jobs?
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for the report. I look forward to seeing the composition of that come back. Mr. Bill Kreitz, can I ask you to come forward, please, to the table? I know we did not agendize a formal update, but insofar as that it affects us, do you have any general comments you'd like to update us on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do.
You can let us have it.
Thank you. With respect to the recent awards, the city has received one recent award for $375,000 for the police department's anti-human trafficking task force, and that we were notified of that award in the interim between the last March 26th ad hoc committee and this meeting. So I just wanted to publicly notify you of that.
That's great.
We don't have any grant applications that have been denied, good thing, since the last meeting. Also, I wanted to tell you, and I want to commend city staff, again, that the April 10th OMB quarterly reporting just concluded. Mm-hmm. The city now had 100% compliance for the third consecutive quarter. So great. City staff in all the departments and bureaus who are overseeing ARA funding have done a tremendous job, and I just want to point that out to this committee. Right. And so that's something that we're proud of as well. There are some reports back actually a number of them from the last meeting in response to questions that Mr. Parks had posed. And it may be a little bit too long to go into those, but those are in your packages here.
Okay.
And it was with respect to some to a CDD grant application that we were discussing at the last meeting. In addition to that, I did want to mention that all of our dashboards are on the LA City Recovery site. And for one last time, I will say that is, if people are listening or watching on Channel 35, those can be accessed at recovery.lacity.org. And those principles, too, that the council developed for guidance, those are also available on the city's intra and internet. And we will begin to make those, beginning with the next meeting, we'll begin to include those in your package with the jobs as moved to the top in terms of priorities. I would also like to say that we have not submitted any applications for ARA funding since the last ad hoc committee meeting. We have now requested $1.52 billion in ARA funding. Of course, we haven't gotten all of that, but those are what our requests total. We have received 87 grant awards for $594 million, and we don't expect any applications to be due next week between today's meeting and next week's meeting. And that would conclude my briefing.
Great. When did you first start working at the CAO's office, if I may ask?
In 2000.
In 2000.
Yes.
And my understanding is this will be our last report from you.
That is correct.
Why is that?
Yes. Well, I retired in October, and the office asked me to stay on a 90-day contract, and that concluded yesterday.
So it's kind of like Godfather 3, they keep pulling you back in?
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of this committee. I have 36 reports that I'd like you to work on while you're gone. If you don't mind coming back, I have some questions, and we can have those be part of your retirement gift. But I just want to personally thank you for your excellence, for your clarity, for your commitment, and for all the good work you've done on behalf of the people of Los Angeles. You're one of those folks most Angelinos wouldn't know of or recognize on the street, but they all owe you a debt of gratitude, and as their representatives here, we are indeed very grateful to you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcia. It's been a pleasure to work with this committee. Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Bill, I just want to say that I've been here maybe a little longer than you, but I've not run into anyone that's been more professional and really as skilled as you are, whether you're dealing with a committee assignment and your presentations. And one thing I've always enjoyed, that as you sat there and gave your report, if someone attempted to manipulate it or reference it in a different direction, you just politely continued the message of the clarity of your research, which is always good to know that you're getting objective facts and allow us to make the decisions, as opposed to saying, I want to keep information from you to sway you a certain way. I always felt that you gave us all the information, and whether we made good or bad decisions, we had the information.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Parks. It's been a pleasure to work with you these years.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can also weigh in, this team is woefully understaffed and over-challenged, and challenged primarily because we don't have a centralized system on the grantsmanship issue, and so it's been difficult with this tremendous opportunity for us to receive federal dollars, at the same time not having sufficient coordinated effort on a citywide basis. This team has been phenomenal in terms of its performance. But Bill, I want to specifically point out that I've raised a lot of challenges in this committee, coming into this committee in January, and challenging even more. But you have addressed every single one of the concerns that I've raised. You've recommended changes based on those concerns. You've I think, improved the process, and it's so often council members make comments about parts of the bureaucracy that concern us, and sometimes we feel like we're spitting in the wind, and because nothing really gets done. But in my short time on this committee, I can tell you that you have been one of the most responsive bureaucrats, if you will, that I've ever had the pleasure to work with, because you have been so responsive, and you have. In fact, you've been over humbling. I mean, you've even apologetic at times unnecessarily, but it's greatly appreciated. And I know at 55, I mean, that's barely legal for retirement purposes. But so I know that you're going to have a lot more contributions. I wish you well with your editing career, hopefully your writing career, and I have a feeling we'll see you back here providing service to the people of Los Angeles again, and so I wish you well in your retirement. I wish I were you in many ways, but we have more work to do here, so congratulations.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Mr. Alarcon. Thank you
Bill.
very much.
Just don't come back as a gadfly, that's all.
I promise.
We have no other items on the agenda, so we're adjourned.
Thank you very much.